I have a problem. So I don't own a lot of clothes. That's because I have very specific taste on what I find pretty and what fits me, and because I don't like shopping. And I buy most of my clothes in thrift shops, specifically the Value Village and the Salvation Army. Thing is, with those kind of stores, you never know what you're gonna get. And sometimes you get broken stuff. But they're pretty, so you don't care and you just fix them. And sometimes you make stuff, but you make them poorly because you're not an experienced seamstress. And so now you have to fix them because you made mistakes. And I have a stack of clothing that needs some minor repairs or adjustments. And most of them have a story behind them. So I'm gonna take you with me into my sewing journey of fixing clothes that I like but that I broke. Here's the pile of thing. There's all sort of stuff in here. We have a shirt, a blouse, a very long dress, a wool jacket, I guess, a onesie, some problematic gloves, and down here we have a skirt as well. So let's just get started, shall we? I'm gonna start with this old vest that I wear a lot. Like, it's not flattering and it's got a lot of disgusting stuff on it, but it's warm and I like it. And what the problem is with this little blouse is that there are 2 buttons missing. That's because I usually only tie 1 button of the vest and run around with my day, and 1 button is not enough to hold an entire vest, and unavoidably the buttons go undone. So I kept one of the button. Let me check if I have the second one. I found the second button. I kept them when they fell off. And now I'm just gonna sew some buttons. Easy as that. To sew that button, I'm gonna use some black polyester thread, even though the other buttons are sewn in with purple thread. That is simply because I don't have a purple thread. I told you I was in my beginning stages of sewing. And while I sew this button, I might as well tell you about how I got this vest, which is, one could say, is a pretty fun story. My mother has 4 brothers and 3 sisters. It's a big family. Family gatherings are really fun. And one of her brothers turned 40 2 years ago, which is when I got that vest. And we were all joking that now he was old. And what do old people wear? Wear tweed vests. And so my mom, to mess with her brother, decided to get him a tweed vest. But she didn't want to spend like $50 on a vest that was ultimately a joke, because that's just silly and a waste of money. So she went to Walmart and got this vest. But this vest is not tweed, it's purple. Like, it's not exactly a vest that you imagined stereotypical old people would wear. And so my mom wasn't satisfied with it. But my uncle's birthday was tomorrow and she had to get the tweed vest in time, so she just decided to roll with it and buy this one. When she came back, she had an epiphany that the best place to find old clothes and vintagey stuff was in the Value Village or thrift shop. And so she didn't even unpack this vest. She just stormed out of the house and went to the thrift shop. And she came back with the perfect vest. I kid you not, it is everything a stereotypical vest needs to be. It was amazing. But now she had this vest. And she didn't keep the receipt because that's not who my mom is. And so now she had 2 vests. But it didn't make sense to offer my uncle 2 vests as a joke. And so I inherited it because I like comfy stuff. This vest is like a large, men's large, whereas I'm a woman's medium or men's small when I decide to shop in the men's section. And so I got that vest because my mom wanted to make a joke to my uncle. And that's 1 button sewn. I'm gonna flip my vest to tie it up, and I'm just gonna knot it off. Maybe do a couple more because I don't want this button falling again. And voila! Cut the excess thread, and you got 1 button. Let's do the second one then. I'm not even sure if this is gonna have enough, if this is gonna be good enough quality for me to post it, or if I'm gonna have to voice over everything. Because my apartment makes some weird noises, and I'm not a real YouTuber. Like, I have 4. As of when filming this, I have 4 subscribers, and 2 of them are my friends. So like, I'm not a YouTuber. And so I can't justify buying filming equipment. I'm a student, I don't have that kind of money. And so right now I am filming on my phone, and I lost my thread. Great. Like, I'm not bad at threading needles, but it is a bit painful because I keep losing my thread. Alright. Back to the button. I don't have that much to say about that vest other than it was a ironic gift from my mom to my uncle, and this vest just wasn't good enough. Which, what does it say about my fashion taste? That my mom bought this to mock her brother, and I was like, that's a cool vest. I'll keep it. Don't you just love living in an apartment where everything you do can be heard by your downstairs neighbors and where you hear everything your upstairs neighbor do? Isn't that fun? Like, I waited 2 hours from when I woke up to film this video because I was scared that talking out loud would wake up my neighbors. And that's a legit concern on my part because sometimes I can hear the baby next door crying. So I'm like, if I can hear the baby crying, they can probably hear me talk to a camera and wonder what is going on with that lady. She is alone right now. And she talks to herself, is she okay? But at the same time, I live in such a weird neighborhood that no one's gonna think about it. Because I live in downtown of my city, but not the fancy downtown where business people live and houses cost like $1 million each. I'm in the shitty downtown. Like, the main street of my city is 3 streets away from here. So I have fast access to the downtown, but it's not so close to it that the apartment costs a lot of money. So it's a cheap apartment near the center of a city, It's also near an hospital, and there are different people living here. Like, most people are fine. But sometimes you find a woman that just gets in the middle of the street and just yells at cars. And just gotta live with it. And then that woman turns around and asks you if you have a cigarette for her. But you're 20 and don't smoke, so you say no. And sometimes your mom comes to visit, and the first thing she tells you when she gets in your apartment is, why is there someone rummaging in the garbage? And you don't realize it's not normal because you've gotten used to it. But it freaks your mom. It freaks your mom out. Because your mom is from a cute little suburb. Which is where you grew up. Casual stuff. And there we go. That's the second button. That vest is completed. Most of the projects I have here today are like this. They're just little things I have to do on garments that I put off because it would imply me sitting down and getting my sewing stuff out. And getting my sewing stuff out takes 5 minutes. But this took me about 5 minutes as well. So it bothers me to have to spend more time getting my stuff out and then back in my storing room just for 5 minutes of sewing 2 buttons. And that's why I tell myself I'll do it later. And then I end up with a pile of clothing. Oops. Now the next piece of clothing I want to do some adjustments to is this dress that my mother gave me. It was actually her dress. So it's it's quite old. And by quite old I mean it's 30 years old max. Not even, it's probably 20 years old. Because my mom bought this dress when she was a newly graduated teacher. She bought this because she was young when she graduated and she wanted to have some... So this dress was already out of style 20 years ago. And now my mom had 2 kids and doesn't fit in it anymore. It's life, it sucks. But it fits me. It fits me quite well, actually, which is probably weird, because now I know that me and my mom had the same body type. Is that weird? That's probably weird, but that's mine now. And I really love it. Now, this dress doesn't have that many problems. The only problem it has is that one of the button fell off. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the other. I kept the button because I am emotionally attached to that dress. And we're gonna sew it on. We're also gonna sew it on in black thread because that's what I have. I'm just gonna find my black thread. Where did I put it? Where did I put my black thread? What the hell? I had it 5 minutes ago. Okay. I just put it in the wrong section of my sewing supply stash. Let's sew this bitch back on. Now for this one I want to be a little more careful about how I go with this because this dress is quite important to me. And it's also really fucking expensive. My mom paid a lot of money for that dress. I don't remember exactly how much, but I remember it was in the hundreds, which I wouldn't even pay $100 now for a garment, let alone 20 years ago. That must have been a lot of money. And now that I think of it, it's probably older than 20 years because my mom bought this when she was 24, and next year she'll be 50. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on camera or if that's a thing my mom doesn't want people to know, but she'll be 50 next year, so Technically, this dress would be 25 years old. So yeah, that's an old-ass dress. And I love it. So, I've been starting my vintage journey, one could say, because I really enjoy those pieces of clothing. Unfortunately, there's not much vintage clothing out there that is affordable to me, being a broke uni student. So I have resorted to just making them or getting thrifted clothes. I'm very thankful for my mom for giving this to me, because I think it's a really pretty dress. I wear it a lot. The only problem I have with it is that it's a dry clean only dress, which pisses me off because I never go to the dry cleaner. My clothes are not usually of that high of a quality, so I don't bother getting them dry clean. I just shove them in the washer and call it a day. And since none of my other clothes are dry clean only, it poses a problem. And I am now noticing that this button is on the verge of giving up. Like, it's not very solid. So I think I'm gonna cut off the threads by which it was hanging and just re-sew it. So this is done for that project. Moving on to the next. The next thing on my list of clothes to fix is this Panda Onesie that I bought 2 Halloweens ago for a Halloween party, and I've been wearing it as a pajama since. But it's a very cheaply made Panda Onesie. Like, it's from a fast fashion store. Really wasn't made to last, and every seam has gave out. Like, the crotch seam has gave out, both of the shoulder seams, like armpit seams, have gave out. Grammar. And so now I really like this onesie as a pajama because it's warm and soft and pleasant. Also, I look very cute in it. But now I have to fix it because I can't wear it to, well, right now there aren't any sleepovers, but if I were to have a sleepover, I couldn't wear this onesie because it has a hole in the crotch. And it feels kind of weird to have holed clothes. I'm not a ripped jean type of girl, so my clothes are usually hole-free, free of holes. Let's just fix that onesie. So there are 3 holes in this onesie, 1 at the crotch and 1 on each shoulder armpit seam. So I'm gonna start with the crotch one because that's the one that bothers me the most. I'm gonna cut some black thread again, but this time I'm gonna double it. Because as I've learned in my past times wearing this, the crotch seam is a seam that gets quite a lot of tension on it. And so I'm gonna double my thread to make sure that this seam I'm gonna sew is gonna be really resistant, and that the thread is not just gonna give out the next time I wear it. So to sew that seam, I'm gonna start a little further back, so where the seam is still like holding strong. That way I don't have a new seam that holds and the old seam that wasn't holding just keeps dying. I don't know if that makes sense. I just want it to be steady. I'm gonna wrap my thread around my needle once every time I stitch so that every stitch has a knot in it, and that makes the seam a lot stronger. I have to make sure I get both of the flaps of fabric, because sewing only one flap of fabric would be a waste of my time. And apparently, according to my uni teacher, I don't have that much time this semester. So you gotta use your time to sew back a a $15 onesie that you bought as a joke with your friend. Now, I bought this for a Halloween party. It was in the time where Halloween parties were okay. So it wasn't last Halloween, it was Halloween of 2019. It was my first Halloween as a college student. And one of my friend, actually my only friend at the time, had the idea that we should go to our uni's Halloween party disguised as pandas, because you were encouraged to wear costumes. And the fun thing is, we never actually got to go to that university party, because the way our university makes parties, it's that they call like 5 to 8. So they start at 5 p.m. and they end at 8 p.m. That way you go back home, you're home by 9, and you're not too hungover the morning after. And since this was Halloween, it was a special occasion. And so instead of being a 5 to 8, it was a 5 to 11. And we thought, we're not gonna go to the 5 to 11, the whole 5 to 11, that's just intense. I'm not that much of a party girl. So we're just gonna go from 7 to 11 instead. And that was our first mistake. We arrived there at 7 and we saw a line of people waiting to get into the party. And it wasn't just like a line of 10-ish people. There was at least 100 people there. And we talked to some people in that line, and apparently they've been there from 5 p.m. And so the party filled in before we even arrived. So we just hung out in the university in Panda Onesies. So that was my 2019 Halloween. How was yours? Also, I just finished the first shoulder seam. Let's go to the second. After this Halloween flop, I went back to some other parties at other times. And I realized that when you're 100 students cramped into a small cafeteria with blasting music, you don't want to be wearing a fleece onesie. It might have been a bad idea to be wearing onesies. Like, we would have gotten so warm. To this day, I still can't believe we used to do that. Like, it all feels so weird and surreal now to remember times where we were cramped against each other, dancing in a room, out of breath, someone just like spilling their drinks on you. And apart from the drink spilling thing, everything was normal. Everything felt normal. It felt okay to not be at a 2 meters distance of people at all time. Like, these days I think about that and I'm like, hell no. Like, someone sits next to me on the bus, we're both wearing masks, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you close to me? And I used to just go dance in small rooms cramped against other people. Like, times really do change, don't they? Also, I'm really sorry that I've been out of frame all this time. I am bad at filming. I think that's all for the Panda Onesie. Also, you might notice I am hand sewing everything. That's because these are just hand sewing works. I can't do it by machine. Trust me, if I could, I would. Alright, that's the onesie done. Let's move on to something else, shall we? Okay, so far I have done 3 projects, but right now I'm getting tired of sitting on my butt in a chair that is not that comfortable and filming in a weird angle. So I'm just gonna take a break and get back to it when I'm feeling like it. If there's a change in the lighting, I guess that's why. I'm gonna go eat. And after having a lovely lunch with myself, it was time to go back to sewing. So the next thing on my list was this pirate shirt that you might recognize from a video I did a couple weeks ago. It already has a problem because, as I've mentioned before, I wash my things in the washing machine, and for some reason at that point I put my pirate shirt in with a bra, and the hooks of the bra hooked on to the shoulder seam and simply ripped apart the fabric. The seam didn't even let go, it was just the fabric. So I'm just gonna take in the fabric to where it's not broken anymore, and hopefully it won't show since it's gonna be hidden by the collar. And to do that small repair, I'm using some polyester white thread, the same thread I used to sew this shirt in the first place. And I'm doubling it because I want this seam to last. And the shoulder seam is a seam that gets quite a lot of wear and tear. And to sew it, I was using the same method I used for the Panda Onesie, where I wrapped my thread around my needle once every time I went through so that the seam would be very strong. And that's my pirate shirt done. The next thing on my list was this pinafore that I made myself actually during my holiday break. It's basically a skirt with an apron front. So I'm gonna put it on to show you what I did wrong with the straps placement, because it has two straps that cross in the back, and as you can see I made them way too long and for some reason sewed them very close to the closings. So I'm gonna have to undo the seams for the straps, shorten them, and put them further away from my center back closings, because it just looks kind of weird as is. It kind of hurts a little bit to have to undo this because I've done it like 3 weeks ago and I already have to take it apart. So that's a bit sad. But hey, it's 20 minutes fixing and it's gonna make me able to wear it a lot. I love the concept of long skirts, but I think they can get a little boring sometimes and I never know how to make them pretty and fashionable. But with pinafore you have a little extra something that I think is easier to style, so I like that. And I actually made this pinafore out of a curtain that I found in the Salvation Army at the same time when I was going to get the bed sheet for the pirate shirt. So at that time I was only looking for the bed sheet, and I don't know if you've ever been to kind of thrift shops or Salvation Army kind of stuff, but basically all of the bed sheets, curtains, so big sheets of fabric are folded and put in the same 3 shelves. And so when you get there, you have to kind of fumble in it and look around to find some treasures, which I find very fun. It's like an adventure. And so while I was rummaging in the pile of bed sheets to find my white fabric for my shirt, I saw this curtain. It only were one curtain, and the color was just too beautiful for me to let go of it, and I just fell in love with the fabric. And so the fabric being like $2, I bought it and I made a skirt out of it. And once that was done, I was ready to go on to the next piece. Except I didn't, because I was tired of doing that. So technically I would still have 2 projects to fix. I have this glove that has a problem. Unfortunately, this glove is also getting really messed up here. You can see like there are some small holes there, and I can't really fix those because this is not on a previous stitch. This is just wear and tear. So I think I'm gonna put this project aside for now. And I also have this shirt that I made from 2 shirts that were both too short for me. So this shirt was supposed to be like a semi-cropped sweater, but I am very self-conscious about my midsection, so there is no in hell I'm wearing a cropped shirt. And so I had added these little bits of fabric from a blouse I had that was not supposed to go in the dryer, but I put it in the dryer anyway because I didn't read the instructions properly, and so it shrunk and it was not wearable anymore. So I chopped up the collar and added it inside there, and I added some small bits. Unfortunately, when I did this almost 2 years ago, and I knew nothing about sewing at that point in my life. And so what I did was just I running stitched one fabric onto the other and called it a day. As you may see here, when I put it in the washer, it frayed all over and it looks disgusting. It's also very itchy. And so what I had started to do was to add a strip of ribbon to hide, like a strip of tape here, to hide my mistakes. And I was doing it by machine. And so far, all of my other projects today were done by hand. And so my sewing machine is still very far in my closet, and I am not willing to get it out today. And so this little boy will have to wait another time. I actually spent quite a few hours on that shirt, and it looked good. I wore it once, and it looked really good, but then I had to wash it, and, shit hit the fan. But yeah, these are my 2 last projects. These ones are probably going into the trash, and that one I need my sewing machine, and I don't really feel like it. So we're gonna pretend those don't exist. And since I decided to call it a day, all there was left for me to do was to show you the pieces that I actually fixed. And so I tried to prop my camera on a desk, and it didn't quite go well. My phone's fine though. It just shows me that I really need to get a tripod ASAP. Excuse the messes around me. So that's my pirate shirt. The shoulder fixing that I did doesn't really show because it's hidden by the collar. And I am gonna layer my pinafore on top of my pirate shirt because I think that is a hot look. And it will make me able to show you my pinafore. Don't mind me, I had some problems untwisting the straps. Usually I ask for help for that, but on that day I was alone in the apartment, so I had to do it myself like a grown-up. And that's my pinafore fixed. You can see that the straps are a lot wider, and it makes a beautiful X on my back, and I really just like that look. Next thing I want to show you is my mother's vintage dress that I also layered on my parrot shirt because A, it's a good look, and B, I was too lazy to change again. And on top of that, I usually wear, well, not usually, I sometimes wear when I'm cold my big purple cardigan that also buttons now because I have put buttons on it. Yay me. I usually never button it all the way down. I'm just doing this for the camera. And I don't know why I'm showing you this because it is so not flattering. But hey, enjoy the show, I guess. And the last thing I need to show you is my Panda Onesie that I don't wear with my pirate shirt because
That would just be weird. It's a pajama, and that's a onesie.
And there we go, guys. That's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed watching me repair old stuff that I already had. I sure know I'm very happy with the way things turned out because I now have pieces of clothing that I couldn't wear anymore that are now perfectly wearable and comfortable and really my style. I don't know how to do outros, honestly. Like, I feel bad telling you to like, comment, and subscribe because I'm not doing this for the subscribers, obviously. But, I mean, if you comment, I will see it and it will make me happy. And I'll probably like it or answer if there's a question in it, because I need social interaction. Why do you think I spent the whole day talking to a camera? I'm slowly going crazy. I needed to talk to people, and that's you guys. So thanks for coming along, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.